Welcome to the Winning Hand Podcast, the podcast all about Marvel Champions, one card at a time. My name is Boomguy. I am your host as always, and I am joined today by my co-host, LazyTitan.
How's it going?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I'm still riding the high from the con.
It's a couple weeks ago, but I am still kind of coming down. I feel like I'm going to be buzzing from the con for a while. It was a ton of fun.
Yeah, I had a great time. It was more Marvel Champions than I have put into my bloodstream for a long time, and it was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a good time. Anybody who is watching this will know we've had multiple con episodes and recaps. We've talked about it a lot, but you really can't talk about it too much because it's like the signature Marvel Champions event of the year.
Dope.
So
it's if people who didn't go this year, you should go. It's great.
You should definitely go.
You can make it out. It's worth it.
We have a bunch of stuff to cover today. We are going to talk about the 4-cost aggression event dive bomb because we need to get back on track with some damage now that Leethus is gone, which is, of course, the other thing we need to talk about. We no longer have a third co-host, so let's just start right there. As everyone who's listening knows, Leethus left after the last episode. He was here for the con recap, which means for those of you keeping score at home, we have been around for 2 full years now. And at the end of each year, the con recap episode has been the end of our third co-hosts. Part of me thought, let's keep doing it. Let's just get another one. And this time do it on purpose. We're just going to run tryouts and we'll just get someone in. And then they'll be here till the con recap episode. And then we'll offload them.
Defense against the Dark Art style.
Yeah, Defense Against Dark Arts. I kind of thought that'd be kind of fun, actually. It was unintentional the first 2 times, but we could just lean into it. No. Instead, I think what we are going to do is going to continue with just the 2 principal co-hosts for now. Me and LazyTitan. And then I think we're going to have some more guests coming on. So bring on some community members, and I'm thinking not just content creators. We're going to have just some guests in the community, people that I know, people that I met at the con, etc., come on and give their thoughts about some cards. That could be fun. And who knows, maybe we will get another full-time co-host out of it, but we're not going to do it like the Joker and Dark Knight and toss out the pool queue to people who want to play. That was a little rough.
Crazy pull.
Hey, man, tryouts.
Yes.
No, we're not doing that. That would be rough. So if you hear more guests, you will... you won't be surprised if you heard this episode because we're going to do some more guests. Not this time. It's just me and LazyTitan. We are going to talk about this divisive event. I think it's divisive. Before we get to that, we have a couple of emails to read. Also, just as a reminder, before we start, if you are looking for an excuse to give your favorite podcast a 5-star review on whatever platform you listen on, and leave a few encouraging words, now is that time. We have crossed the threshold now. We do have more reviews on Apple Podcasts alone than any other Marvel Champions podcast out there. So, number 1 in your hearts and number 1 in the charts. So, here we are. winninghandpodcast@gmail is where you send us messages. We have 2 emails to read today. So I'm going to get through these before we talk about what we've been playing recently. So, first message says, "Greetings, Boomguy and others." You're just and others.
I'm just and others now. And there's not even a second others. I'm just and other.
That's it.
Not even plurals anymore. It's just
this
me.
came before the switch, so to be fair. First off, love the show. I found Marvel Champions in November 2024 and promptly went looking for podcasts. I'm a podcaster myself, he says. I landed on your show and binged it. I have to say, I'm now disappointed I have to wait weekly for new releases. Let me just be the bearer of bad news. You actually have to wait 2 weeks. We are a bi-weekly show. Your conversation about multiplayer and matched set deck lists pushed me to publish my first set of decks. I challenged myself with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. to complete the campaign on Expert. I haven't had much experience with it besides a few games against Rhino and Claw. After a few false starts, however, I finally settled on Nick Fury Justice and Maria Hill Leadership build that I was successful with. These decks took what I believe to be the essence of the precons and dialed them up in a way that made them functional and fun. He gives us 2 links there. I'll publish them in the show notes. I also have a set of lists for Mutant Genesis and Wave 6 that are meant to be all pre-built using only the Mutant Genesis box, Wave 6 hero packs, and core set, and can be mixed and matched for quick games. You've inspired me to do write-ups for those as well and to publish them. Thank you all for the great content. I hope you guys have a great con of heroes. Hashtag King in red and sometimes green.
Oh, yeah. There we go. And others got his own hashtag. That's cool.
I mean, got his own hashtag, buddy.
Got his hashtag, I'll take that.
This is something I kind of want to read out because I don't read every email. I read every email, but I don't read them on the show. I only pick some because honestly, I get more than you would think. But please send them. I respond to every single one. Anyway, this raises an idea. This person talks about having pre-built decks for everybody. And this is something I've seen on the Discord. People talk about having all their heroes pre-built at all times, so you can just grab a deck and play. So you have gone through your card pool and you've figured out a way to divvy up the cards. So obviously many of the decks are not like optimized, right? They're not perfect, but they're functional. They work. Different aspects. Spread all your cards out. What do you think about that idea, LazyTitan?
I'm torn. I like the idea. I have a similar idea for other games. My Magic decks are arranged in such a way. I build them, and then they change slightly, but they generally stay in their packages. But it's also a different style of game. I buy singles of cards that go for that deck. I don't just have a static collection. I think for Marvel Champions, I prefer not to because I like a lot of the cards. This might shock you. For a guy who plays mainly one and a secondary aspect, I actually double up on cards a lot. So there's only so many copies of Hone Technique and Dive Bomb and other aggression staples. So I run out of them pretty fast. There's a lot of Looking for Troubles now, so I use those more.
They had a reprint.
But Bring It, Looking for Trouble, Berserker Frenzy's got one, but like a lot of those cards, What Doesn't Kill Me is one of my favorites in Protection. A lot of those cards that I just don't have duplicates of, and I have a style of deck that I have leaned more and more into as I've started to realize that's what I like. So not for me, but if you want to have like a quintessential deck for every hero, where you kind of capture what that hero wants to do and keep it, and if you're much more of a casual player than someone who has a podcast about it, I think that's a perfectly valid way to do it. And also you get part of the fun of deck building by customizing some stuff.
I mean, this is not an impossible task because it essentially comes with decks like this, right? Like, the precon model means you could just play the precons and you would have enough cards for every deck. They wouldn't be ideal. Some precons are better than others, but you would just need to maybe swap a few cards out here or there. But there's enough deck building cards that come along outside of the precons. You could do that.
I like the idea of keeping it in the waves.
Yeah.
And I think that actually wouldn't take much away from the overall experience or the quality of these decks, because a lot of the cards that are meant to go in any given hero come in their wave, generally. Like a lot of those mutant cards that care about attachments came with the Cyclops wave. So they all came with him to allow him. A lot of these new preparations came with Nick. So a lot of the old preparations came with Black Widow. So generally, if you stick to your wave, you're going to get all the cards you want. There's some exceptions, obviously, like Hone Technique for all those earlier aerial heroes and later aerial heroes. Because of, I don't want to spoil it, but because of a card we may talk about at some point.
Hone Technique's not just for aerial. Come on.
Let's be honest, brother. It's not. No, Hone Technique is Hone Technique is the people's card. Technique. It's a great card. It's good for everybody. Yeah. It defines the aspect of basically. But again, another card that I don't usually run 3 of, but I usually run 2 of, and I don't have 4 copies of it. So
that's true. We did a whole episode on Hone Technique, and I'm frantically trying to look. When was that? Who remembers when Hone Technique was? Anyone?
Did we have a guest for Hone Technique?
We did not. This is not super interesting podcasting. I'm scrolling through episode 19. Man,
that was a lot longer ago than I thought. I was going to say, was Keiko on that episode?
Yes, November 14th, 2023 was our Hone Technique episode. That was a long time ago.
It's a long time ago.
Sandwiched in between 2 guest appearances by Nelson for episode 18 and episode 20. There you go.
He skipped a good one.
I mean, he was on for Beast, which is pretty good. So,
Beast, what a killer.
Beast is awesome. All right, we have another email, so let me get to this. It is titled, Leethus Goes Down in a Blaze of Glory, ? Good day, Winning Hand hosts. I'd just like to say farewell and best wishes to Leethus. Of all the hosts, I felt his opinion most closely aligned with mine until his last episode. I've had the game for a few years and probably played an average about 1 game a week. I've even made some custom content of my own. I think about the game when I daydream, but I don't own everything and I never will. I have about 25 heroes, none later than Sinister Motives, and about 20 scenarios, and I'm totally happy with it. Money and time are limiting factors, but the big one for me is the organizational burden. I took several hours off on a day last summer to put together 14 good decks, sufficient supports, allies, etc., and I don't want to redo that. Still, do I consider getting more? Sure. Vision and War Machine are the top of my list, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. box looks pretty awesome. One more thing. No mention of Blaze of Glory. It is so choice with Star-Lord, it takes Daring Escape to an 11. Thanks as always for the time and effort you put into the podcast. Have a great time at the con. I hope to make it next year. Cheers, Ryan. So another one who sounds like he builds decks and kind of keeps them together.
I think that's more of a popular style in Marvel Champions than in a lot of other games, and also more than you would expect if you're in the Marvel Champions space.
Yes.
A lot of the people who, it's sort of like I don't know what kind of bias that is, but there's one of them that's named after that, where everybody who's talking about it on the internet has built a billion decks, and all the people you see on Marvel CDB all the time. Some people who are like topping the page with multiple decks at the same time. I don't want to name any names, but it happens to some of us.
It happens.
Those people generally are building a lot of decks and they're going through all this work, but I think the average player is not really doing that.
No, I totally agree. Most players are not doing that. I play Arkham. I dabble. I'm not a huge Arkham player, but when I play Arkham, I'm mostly net decking, to be honest. I'm mostly heading to Arkham DB and scrolling through and find a deck that looks cool, and then I build it. I don't really build
I will
decks.
say Arkham's a whole different beast to play.
It is.
Than Marvel Champions is. Marvel Champions is much more friendly to get to start building and to get back into after you take a long break of. Arkham has its own interesting things. You can get way deeper into it because of that. You can get that like real kind of crunchy deck building stuff that Marvel Champions misses out on sometimes, but it comes at the cost of having to keep up with that game so much. I have the same thing with Lord of the Rings. If I don't play Lord of the Rings for a while, which I haven't in a while, I go back. I don't remember a lot of those cards.
It's a little overwhelming, and I never got into it as deep as I did with this. This is also the first of the LCGs that I've lived through from start to finish. We talked a little bit about that a couple episodes ago, about how I think you just learn it and absorb it differently if you live through the expansions in real time, right? And you kind of remember things differently and have more time with each of the cards. But I think this idea of having decks built is definitely, and this is not pejorative, it's more of a casual mindset, right? I think people who just kind of picked up a few things of Marvel Champions, they dabble, they enjoy playing it here and there, but it's not a lifestyle game for them. They're happy to just net deck or just keep decks together, because honestly, it's easier to just grab a deck and play than it is to go to Marvel CDB, look through, find it, go through your cards. It's just easier to have them built. So
for sure,
I see this a lot, and
I think
if it works, more
part of that for me, the reason I don't do that is also because we share a collection, as has recently been ousted on the podcast. So because of that, I can't just keep all my cool protection cards in my Drax deck forever, because you need them for something else, or I need them for something else.
Yes.
And so stretched between two people, those decks start to get very thin on cards you want. You run out of X-Jets and Queen Carriers and Symbiote Suits and Home Techniques and Death Focuses like very quickly. Maria Hills go fast. I think I may have mentioned last time, part of the reason I stopped playing allies early is because all the good ones were always taken because you were playing them. And so I was like, well, I guess I just won't play them. And then I learned to...
an allies guy. I'm not that much.
I mean,
but early
in the game, there was just not that many cards. And so,
for sure.
when you're playing a leadership deck, there's only like 8 good leadership allies, and Maria Hill's one of them. So I'm like, oh, well, I don't really have anything left.
I mean, pop quiz for you. Is she the best deck building card in the game?
Maria Hill?
Maria Hill. Is she the best card in the game?
It's obviously Home Technique. Let's keep it real.
Okay.
Best deck building card in the game?
Is she the best ally in the game?
Best ally in the game? Really?
Yeah, I think she.
I think in one player, like in solo, she's not. But at 2 or higher, she's just kind of has to be.
She's completely cracked.
There's people up there who are pushing it, like Omega or Kid Omega. Pretty cracked.
Omega is pretty cracked.
Kid Omega's pretty cracked. That's how I played a couple times in the con. He's very strong.
And there are some allies that people abuse, especially solo. Professor X has become a solo staple. It's a huge crutch. Nick Fury, Moon Girl.
I'm surprised there's Blade on that list more. Blade is just so cheap.
I think Blade is actually really underrated. I don't see Blade in
many
decks
Blade's
at all.
very strong.
Yes.
You don't, if you play him the way most other allies are played, he's just a one-drop tough card, basically.
Yes, he is.
He doesn't get to attack, sure. And some people I see build decks around him where they're all about spending resources to attack with Blade and stuff, and that's cool. And that's part of the cool thing about Blade, but you can also just not, and he never dies.
Yeah.
Or he does die instantly, and it's pretty good. I guess he doesn't draw a card, so he falls a little bit behind like Moon Girl and Ironheart and stuff.
He's also a great like Earth's Mightiest Heroes battery.
Yeah.
You're playing like an Avenger. It's like
Or
Quicksilver,
he's a
or you
good
drop
team
him
up
out.
card. He's got
Earth's
2
Mightiest
attack.
Heroes. Yeah.
He's great
Good.
for any of those Avenger Guardian team up cards, the Alliance cards. He's a great little ally.
think it's
Stinger's on that list
it's a
too.
good
Stinger's
shout.
very good. She's like
Stinger.
Blade but doesn't even take up a spot.
We should talk about Blade more.
Yeah, but best ally in the game, it's probably either Maria Hill or Miss Marvel in the Nova pack.
I mean, not hero cards.
I was like,
Deck
said
building.
any in the game.
Okay.
Deck building ally, it's probably her.
Or Nick. Honestly, Nick's cracked.
Or the Professor, and Professor X is pretty.
Just bonkers good. Okay, those are the emails we have today. Let's go to what we have been playing recently. LazyTitan, I'm gonna let you go first. Since we're still kind of coming down from the con thing, let's talk about our favorite heroes, our favorite decks that we played at the con, and give me some meat, give me some zhuzh. What did you play that you liked the most and want to talk about?
I will omit the obvious. My favorite deck was obviously Drax Protection. It's my favorite deck of all time. I have a list that is effectively, well, I will say, it was effectively static until one of my final games of the con. I played with push buttons on Discord.
Hit buttons.
Hit buttons, not push buttons. Sorry. He was super cool. He played a game with us and Caleb Grace, which was very cool.
Very cool.
And he convinced me on a couple cards that I've been iffy on for Drax for a while, but seeing them in action, I was thoroughly impressed. But generally, it's the same idea of ready yourself as many times as possible. You draw a lot of cards, you see a lot of your deck, you do a lot of damage. It's great. But my sleeper hit of the con, which I may have mentioned in the recap episode, I don't remember, was my Nick deck. So I mentioned on the episode before the con, I said, I am going to bring a wildcard deck, and that is going to be Nick Aggression. And I have never held Nick Fury in my hand. I've never played him. I've never tried it. I never tested it. We're going to see how it goes. And it was really cool. It was really cool.
Yeah.
It was really good. A couple of like tech things that I hadn't even thought of really surprised me. Like the fact that he basically ignores guard and patrol. Because all of your thwarting comes from, or a good chunk of your thwarting comes from Into the Fray, which is an attack event, just removes threat. So you're good there. And all of his damage comes from attacking the minions. So guard doesn't do anything because you're attacking the minion anyway. It's all overkill based with marked. So you can collect all these minions, and all these normally keywords that prevent a minion collector deck from doing its thing don't matter. So you get to just like go off even more. And then you can sit in your little bunker and never take damage. I like really only took damage when I needed to defend for someone who's going to die. It was because you can always be in stealth. And you have enough thwart that you can keep the main scheme down. It was really, really fun. I think we posted the deck list on the con episode or something.
We did. Yep.
It's super cool. It's all about the idea is you stay in stealth till you get your big turn, you collect minions to farm counters, and then you flip up to assault form, spend all your counters on your watch, and burn it all on extra damage. Do a ton of damage to the villain, do a ton of damage to minions, thwart for a bunch of the main scheme, and then either spend one of your cards that lets you flip back to stealth or flip down to go to stealth because they're going to scheme anyway, and then you can't get attacked is the basic idea. It's super fun, the little math game of making sure you always have that one resource for your covert surveillance, or making sure your last attack is your sniper shot, your concentrated fire to flip back. It's super fun. It was really cool. It was a great foray into Nick, and it made me want to play a lot more of him. He's just got a cool little mini game to play. But I want to try him in other aspects.
What would your next build with Nick be?
My next build will probably be Justice, or I'll try another aggression build. I had a build I wanted to try, but decided not to bring, which was scrapping all of that for just preparation spam. And I was just going to play Lion Weight, Anticipation is the protection one, but all the preparations I can in basic and in red, and just farm minions while I hit him with Lion Weight and just thwart the main scheme. And then I have giant attack cards that I can play with my tons of counters that I can just pop out and then flip back down and pop my preparations. That was the idea. I think after having played my other deck, I think it will just be worse, but I want to try it out.
All right. And where'd you fall on Nick? It was your first time playing Nick.
Nick,
Where does he rank for you?
I like him, I think, even more than I thought I would. I read him and was immediately like, that's my kind of hero. He's got a little mini game. He does a lot of damage. He's got some cool cards. His art is incredible. A lot of his cards are very cool.
Very good.
So I think Nick's up there for me. I think he's top 25% of heroes.
Really?
He's up there. I like him a lot. He's very my style. He's not like top 5 yet. I've only played him however many times I played him at the con, but that was a deck that I was requested by people who I played with earlier in the con. They were like requesting me to play it again to see how it works again. That was a favorite of mine.
Yeah, it was really cool. I saw it in action a few times. I'm glad you liked Nick. The way you played him for sure gave me some Vision vibes. You know, I've played the red Vision deck quite a bit. That Brant started way back when and has been iterated on however many times since then. But, you sit in Intangible, you just get all the minions in front of you, you let them activate and hit you because as long as they're not attacking for more than 2, they don't do anything. And then you bring it to draw a ton of cards and then flip up and do your big stuff. So it gave me kind of Vision vibes, but it's a little more flexible.
Similar. Yes. It was iterating on that idea.
Yes.
That kind of became an archetype after that deck came out of like the minion collector. But it solves the main issue that I've always had with the minion collector is that you will eventually die. Like Vision, if you get a 3-attack minion, you can't deal with it. If you get a guard or a patrol minion, you can't thwart anymore. You have to flip to kill it, and then you're open to the rest of them to attack you. Or if you flip up and you can't kill all of them, you still get attacked. The turn you flip, the villain gets you. Nick solves all that by just being able to do both. You can have your big turn. You can have your cake and eat it too. You just have your big turn, and then you just flip back down. And you get all the cool stuff of the Vision, the payoff of Vision, but you get none of the downside, which is super fun. But you have to put in a little bit of work to make sure you get there.
Yeah, the Vision one, the problem with it, of course, is if you get your obligation, which ruins your mass form, and then you just flip down, you just lose the game. Because if you have enough minions in front of you, they all scheme and you just lose, even in multiplayer, right? They'll just blow up the main scheme. So you can't ever flip down once you get a certain number. And if you get 1 or 2 that are 3 attack, or you have a villain that's 3 attack, you will just take a little bit of damage. And then once you flip, you have to make sure you kill all the minions that turn. Otherwise, you will just die because then you're not reducing damage. So there's some risk involved with the Vision build, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. But it's always fun to just bring it and draw a bunch of cards.
It's dope, and I had to bring it to my Nick deck because you can do it feels like just a better version of that because most minions have 1 scheme, some of them have 2, and even that's fine. If they have like 3, if you're fighting like Ronin, like the Kree Fanatic set or something, like then you have to like deal with it. But generally they have 1 or 2, and you reduce it by 1, and you can spend all your counters. And then they just don't thwart, and you get 5 counters, which you can spend for your watch, you can spend for your car, you can spend to up your damage, and you just get so much flexibility out of it that it solves the big problem. There are still things you can't do with Nick that you can do with like Wolverine. Wolverine has kind of that cool style with Berserker Frenzy where you just kind of push it to the limit and try and see how low you can go and draw as many cards as you can, and then also bring it on top of it so you can double up. But there's a lot more risk involved in that. And then Vision, you have all your cool Vision stuff, right? You have all your cape and you have your retaliate that you can slowly have them kill themselves and you can do all the cool stuff. The Vision card archetype that like Kitty Pryde has and like Sunfire, that just discarding hero action upgrades becomes only more valuable. That is a card I wish I had at the con almost every game. And when I did have it, when I was playing Shadowcat, something like the Sunfire effect, when I was playing Shadowcat, it was almost always useful just to be able to, it gets through because a lot of them have downsides now. They used to just cost, but now that a lot of them are like Ronin's Universal Weapon, where you like get a boost card and then you shuffle it back in the deck so you can't get rid of it. But that lets you discard it, or like a lot of the ones, like the Osborne tech is always a downside. So that Vision has that, which is pretty dope. Plus, it's a confuse taped onto it.
Yeah, he's really good, and he can thwart for a ton. So you can sit in Intangible and thwart a lot
more than Nick really can.
Yeah.
Nick actually has surprisingly little thwart.
I mean, his thwarting is kind of like Colossus, right? Where he's just preventing it rather than actually removing it.
Which he does do a lot of, because he prevents one of the villains, and then as many minions you have, just don't scheme. And then he has 2 thwart, and he can ready himself with his car for effectively free, because you thwart for 2, get a counter, spend it to use your car, and then thwart for 2 and get a counter back. Plus you get aerial, which I didn't use, but you could. But he doesn't actually have a lot of thwart. Vision has that over him, where if you do get out of hand, Vision has that tool. Yeah, it's a cool archetype. It's a fun deck.
It's a super fun deck. I saw it in action. Okay, I will kind of segue from what I just mentioned, because I mentioned Colossus, and that is the one that I want to talk about that I had the most fun with at the con. I did talk before about my wild card deck. Last couple years, I've tried to bring one that's a little zany, a little crazy. This year, it was an alter ego Tony Stark deck. I did post that in the last episode. You can go check that out in our con recap. That was super fun.
It was really interesting, actually.
It's much more viable than I thought it would be.
It's
Started
very
as kind of a
good.
joke, but
In
it's
multiplayer,
also fun.
Yeah, it's actually very
It's
good.
good in multiplayer and in solo. I've tried it a few times and it works really well.
Can't really die.
But we will talk about Colossus. So I brought Colossus in protection, and my idea was to bring a defense Colossus deck because I do not see a lot of decks with Colossus that are built around defending. They are mostly built around ways to either replenish his tough cards or keep his tough cards so that he is able to use them for other things, because a lot of his cards you have to discard a tough card to get something, so to try to keep those tough cards out. This one is about leaning into just using them and defending as much as possible. So the key card in this deck that I brought was Anticipated Attack, which is a 2-cost defense event that you can only play if there's a side scheme in the victory display, and it's a hero interrupt. When an enemy initiates an attack, you give your hero a tough card. So that's great. So the crucial part there is that it's a defense card, which means you can play that defense card, and because you played a defense traded card, it pulls the attack towards you. So, you can have no tough cards. You can use Ready for a Fight to flip up if you want to, but assuming you're already flipped, right, and you have one tough card, you play Anticipated Attack to pull the attack towards you, immediately losing the tough card because the attack absorbs it. So you get a tough card, you immediately lose it, which draws you a card with Iron Will. It also draws you a card with Unflappable, and then you still have a tough card, so then you can use Desperate Defense on the next person's attack. You can defend. You're guaranteed to get the kicker and ready because you have a tough card, so you'll just defend, ready yourself, lose that tough card.
Organic Steel
gets you another tough card back. Then you can just defend for someone and eat a tough card. Then you can just absorb yours. Like, you can defend 3-4 times around pretty easily.
And you draw so many cards.
And it's card draw. Yeah.
Was one thing I saw with that deck is you had like upwards of 10 cards in hand almost all the time, which was very surprising for your deck, like centering around a 2-cost event. And Colossus doesn't have like a super high cost curve, but you have that 2-cost event and all that set up, and he burned through your deck so fast. You see it every turn. You effectively have like a 7 hand size because you flip down and get a free tough card. Because you have, with Anticipated Attack, you have 5 cards in there that let you flip back. So you have Armor Up and all your Anticipated Attacks. So you basically always can flip down. Oh, yeah. Ready for Fight. Not that one. Yeah. Ready for Fight. You always flip down pretty much safely because you'll have an Anticipated Attack out. And if you don't, you'll just shuffle an Armor Up in and draw it. So it's very consistent. I've tried to do the Colossus, like flip down every turn deck. Ready for Fight just makes it so consistent. Anticipated Attack is a card that I want to experiment more with because that card is sweet. I want to play it in Kitty Pryde.
Undervalue those cards. Yeah.
Yep. I think that feels like the best one. The other ones are cool, but Kitty Pryde, I wanted to try it in because she loves cards that are just defense traded that do something else. So then you can either get a tough card and be in phase so you take no damage and hold a tough card, or you lose a tough card and flip to phase so you blank your next defense. All for 2, which you can pay for with her mass form. It's just so interesting and cool and just good in any hero. It's at absolute worst. Well, I guess technically at absolute worst is a blank card. But at absolute worst, if there's a side scheme in the victory display, you can just not take any damage for 2.
Yeah.
Which is still pretty good.
I mean, the key with Colossus, right, is Iron Will. So by playing it and getting a tough card, you're immediately losing it. So you're immediately getting 1 card back off this 2-card event and defending for someone else. Unflappable means you're just getting 2 cards back for playing that. But yeah, I was flipping down every turn. Ready for a Fight and Armor Up mean you can flip right up if someone activates or schemes. So I would just flip down, get my full 6 cards, then I'd flip up with Armor Up or with Ready for a Fight. Moira draws you another card on the way up, and you get a tough card. So you just flip
an 8 hand size
with 7 cards right there. Then you can play Anticipated Attack, draw 2 cards back. It's just so good. And yeah, there were so many times I would just have 8, 10, 12 cards in my hand, like all the time.
And your Colossus, so you always have a tough card, and you're playing protection, so you have even more tough cards because you have things like Polaris and Anticipated Attack and all the many things you can use So then you can use your tough cards for your Colossus cards. You can do your Steel Punch to stun and confuse, which is super good. 2 for 5 at stun and confuse is very strong. Or your Maid of Rages for a 0-cost event, which replaces itself because you spend a tough card to attack for 9.
Yeah.
And then you have a resource generator that exhausts for 2 resources, and like it just stacks so fast. Once you have tough cards to spare, you can do so much damage.
And this Titanium Muscles is, generates a tough for each, or resource for each tough card on him, so you can just use that for anticipated attack. Sometimes you have 2.
Yep, you always have 1. You never don't have a tough card.
It's just so good. This deck was a ton of fun, and I played it a number of times. I mean, I think you were playing my Iron Man Alter Ego deck.
Yes.
We played against Juggernaut Expert.
And
I just defended for 4 players the whole game. And
that was a very interesting game because we picked our heroes and then decided Juggernaut. And then when the helmet came out, we all realized that's really bad because it gives him piercing, correct? It gives him overkill.
I think it gives him overkill, but the big thing is that when he schemes, you flip it back. So.
Yes, so the big thing was I was playing an Alter Ego deck, so he was going to scheme on me every turn. So we'd have to keep spending resources, and it's a hero action, so I could never spend for it. I had plenty of resources as Iron Man, so I wanted to spend money on it, but I couldn't. But that was maybe the most I've ever whomped a villain, like ever. We crushed Juggernaut.
We completely punked him.
It was
he never
like
got
he
damage
never
on
did
anybody.
He did damage to me because I wanted to take indirect damage because I couldn't die. Like we punked him. It was crazy. We had who else was playing? Iceman, leadership.
We had Psylocke,
aggression, and ice. Oh no,
Captain America,
Cap leadership. And yeah, it was just not even close. He didn't attack me, but he was always confused from either Psylocke or Colossus, so he just never lost his helmet. If he did, Colossus had 50 cards in hand, so just paid for it anytime.
I'm just ready for a fight. Like when he would scheme instead, he attacked
for me. Even when he had his helmet up, he would attack for 4, 5, 8. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. It's just so many tough cards, and then he's only attacking 3 people, and Colossus can easily defend 3 people in a turn.
It was literally
super fun. With just 1 card. So it was super cool.
Fun, and yeah, like I don't see a lot of Colossus decks built around defending, and it reminds me how fun it is to defend a table of people and build a deck that can defend for everybody.
It's one of my favorite archetypes.
It's super interesting.
It's a fun little puzzle too.
It is, and he still has lots of damage to put out. So yeah, I don't want to go on too long, but that was the deck. That was the 2 decks that we had the most fun with. I don't know if I played Colossus the most, but that's the one that just
I tried this Colossus deck out as well. It was
every time.
It was tough.
I just wanted to play it every time. I was like, oh, I kind of play Colossus. Like as long as someone else doesn't want to defend the table, I'm happy to defend the table.
Yep.
So
it doesn't do a ton of damage, so you don't need, but you want somebody to be kind of pushing, and it also enables those like very reckless kind of like rocket style decks to just not have to worry about it ever. You can have a rocket in your game who never defends, never plays an ally, just always killing the villain, and you can't die because you could just defend for the 2 of you twice a turn.
Too easy.
Okay.
That was our decks that we played. And now let's talk about the card of the day. So I'm going to share the card of the day on the screen, and then LT, would you like to read
I would love to read this card. In fact, this card is one of my favorite cards to read.
Okay.
This is Dive Bomb, a 4-cost aggression event. It has the aerial and attack traits. It says play only if your identity has the aerial trait. Hero action, attack, deal 7 damage to an enemy, deal 1 damage to each other enemy, and it produces a physical resource. And this came in the Star-Lord pack.
That's true. Yep, it came in the Star-Lord pack. And let's just lean right into, let's talk about the art first. This is where we usually start. And this art's incredible. So
I like this art a lot, actually.
Yeah. Why don't you tell us what's happening?
Big
for
fan.
Those who can't see it.
Me?
Yeah.
So we see Captain Marvel in like the classic kind of like Superman flight pose, 1 hand in front, 1 hand behind, very clearly about to rock somebody, straight at the camera, I guess, straight at us. She's flying right at us. It's all in this kind of like orangey tint, but you can still kind of make out the colors of the suit. She's got the helmet on she doesn't always have, which I like a lot. The Captain Marvel helmet with like the kind of Greek hair frill style. It's just really cool. It's a
like
very action-packed pose.
her.
And there's like dust and explosions behind her. It looks like she either is like flying across sand or just punched through a building. It's very dynamic. There's like the lines that indicate the like speed she's going at. It brings a lot of like weight, and it feels like she's about to do some real damage.
This is an incredible piece of art. I
It's
love
great.
this. I want a full art of this card because it's awesome.
Man, there's so many cards I want full arts of.
That's true. There's a lot.
This
I see
is
this a
on
lot.
that short list though. Number
Yeah.
1 is War Machine.
Ooh, that's a good shout. The hero.
I think Hero War
And Alter
Machine
Ego.
might be best art in the game.
Shout out to Sandy though, who provided these awesome big cards at the con, and you got War Machine, and it is
I did.
amazing.
I got War Machine, and I say War Machine is one of the best arts in the game. Sandy's giant War Machine might
better.
actually be better. The Alter Ego is better. I prefer
Don't
it.
at me.
It's like
better.
it's Rhodey in his like full military dress uniform, walking out of like some light background,
It
and
has,
then the
like,
War Machine
backlit.
is so cool. It's so stylized and like it almost looks like cell shaded, like Borderlands kind of. It's like really cool.
Mhm.
It's very interesting. Huge shout out to Sandy. Those were so cool. I played with Giant War Machine. I didn't actually end up loving my War Machine deck that I brought, but I ended up playing it more just because I wanted to play that giant War Machine. It was so cool.
The art's incredible. Also, the size is cool.
Just
so
having a
shout out
giant
to
hero is
Sandy.
cool.
If you listen, you're awesome. He gave a ton of cards away. Okay, so the art, yes, I think the art is an A+. This is a win. It's like flying right at the fist, just coming out of an explosion. It's all like you said, orange and red and yellow tinted because of fire and explosions.
That's one thing that we often kind of rag on for cards is like if their art matches their color scheme too well. But this I like because it's not just red. It's a similar color, but it's an aggression card, so it's already red. It has a physical resource, so that's also red. And the entire art is like very orangey yellow and red. So you just get like it's a full red card, but there's enough difference and dynamic like pose here that it looks interesting. It's not just like super boring. I'm a huge fan.
Big fan here as well. I think this is awesome. I think, the art's incredible. So let's just move then thematically. Well, actually, before we go to theme, let me say the little Star-Lord face, the tiny, it's not the face on his hero cards, but the tiny little icon, it looks pretty good. I like it.
I'm a fan.
Okay, so the theme of this card, we're talking about the title, the flavor text, what it does, everything, the art. Does it all come together holistically to make us feel it?
Make you feel like you're a superhero who just landed with their flying super strength powers. I think so. I think it gets at least most of the way there. Playing only if you have the aerial trait feels very thematic, right?
Yeah,
You can't
for
dive
sure.
bomb if you can't fly.
Touche.
Dealing damage to everybody is fun.
Yes.
We won't get into the power of this card yet, but I like the idea of dealing a bunch of damage to one person and then just kind of the aftershock hitting everybody else.
Yeah. Thematic.
It's high cost, so it feels like a big weighty event to do.
I think that's actually a really important point to bring up. That the cost also, like, it does a lot of damage, but the cost makes it feel significant.
Because you
right?
spend your whole hand
like a
with an average
bomb.
hand size. You spend your whole hand to do this, and it's like your big punch. It's your big turn, and the art kind of leans into that. It all feels like you're doing this big superhero move, which is what we all want to do when we're playing Marvel Champions, right?
It is a superhero power fantasy. That's what we're doing. Let me ask you this. Pop quiz, LazyTitan. It's a time for a pop quiz. I'm a big pop quiz fan. We haven't had one in a while. So let me ask you. This is a 4-cost event. You mentioned that kind of weight adds to the theme. How many events in Marvel Champions do you think there are that cost 4 or more? I did not prep him for this audience. How many cost 4 or more, including this one?
I would guess somewhere in the ballpark of 9 to 12.
What's the number?
We'll say 11.
Okay. There are actually 10. That is a darn good guess. There are 10 events. None of them cost 5. There are 2 that cost 6.
6, yeah.
Yeah, the 2 pool ones, the bomb and pool inspection. And then the rest of them cost 4. I'm going to run through for those of you listening at home. Avengers Assemble, Dive Bomb, Flying Formation, Full Body Charge, Gamma Slam, Joining Forces, Problem Solvers, and Stand Together. So 3 of those old Guardian Avenger Alliance cards, 2 of the pool cards that are cards. We have 1 hero card from the core set. And then
Gamma
we have
Slam.
2
the only
big
4-cost event?
It's the
in
only
Euros?
4-cost hero event, yeah. We have 2
Really?
big hero cards, or 2 big aggression cards, Dive Bomb and Full Body Charge, and then we have 2 big leadership, Avengers Assemble and Flying Formation. I think all of these events, setting aside pool for a second, or forever, these are all pretty impactful, but you have to pay the costs, right? That's part of the issue.
And I think all of them have a lot of setup involved. All of the 4-cost events from that list that I can think of don't really have like just they don't just happen. You can't just play these cards. Avengers Assemble, you want to have a big board. Stand Together, you got to have your 2 characters and get attacked. The Justice one, I forget what that's called.
Problem solvers.
You have to have 2 allies that have high thwart. So there's a setup involved. Full body charge is maybe the least of those, where
That's
you can't just do 4 for 8. But with the kicker, you get overkill, and the kicker requires a bit of setup. So maybe the exception to that. But
yeah, I mean, Wolverine
interesting
just
that
plays full body charge. Turn 1.
you would think that the bigger cards would be more independent and require less setup, whereas like the smaller cards would want to synergize more. But
They
a lot of
feel
those,
like a lot of these feel like finishers, man. Like
Yeah,
Avengers Assemble is a finisher.
Yeah,
Full
that's
body
a game.
charge can be a finisher. Flying formation, maybe not. Dive bomb, maybe not. But that's all right. So that was our pop quiz. I will dock this card some thematic points, as I always do, for cards that do not have flavor text. There's no
Yeah.
flavor text here. That is a minus for me.
and I feel like I'm not like a huge Captain Marvel fan. I've seen the movie. I've never read the comics of her or anything, but I feel like there's got to be some quote of Captain Marvel just going like "booyah" or like "hell yeah" or something like that. You can just throw on the bottom of this card. Pretty easy,
Yeah.
like just like a 2-word like "take that" kind of a thing of like
Yeah.
something like powerful, cool that you can just like a one-liner that you could hit after doing a dive bomb on Thanos or whatever.
You would have to think. I mean, I don't know the character. Someone at me in the comments. Is she the type of person to bring a one-liner? If it was Star-Lord, he would have a pithy one-liner. After
You have
he
a
drops
one-liner
dive
every
bomb on her.
time.
This is, I mean, at least the MCU version. I don't know. Chris Pratt is Chris Pratt emblematic of Star-Lord in the comics. I have no idea.
I mean, he is
Maybe
now.
it's Star-Lord for me because I don't read the comics. Boomguy, famously
Famously
not
not
a
a comic reader.
Okay, so that's theme. I think overall, though, I agree with you. Like the cost is something we don't usually talk about in theme, but I think it fits here, so it's good you brought that up. Let's talk about the power of this card. How strong is
Excellent
Dive Bomb?
segue, because the cost is also very relevant to its power.
Well, let's extrapolate for a second.
Let's
I was
talk
gonna
about this card.
Okay.
Number one most important thing when we talk about really any aggression event, but especially an aggression event that costs 3 or 4, is this card is effectively 2 cards. There is Pre-Nova Dive Bomb, which is effectively unplayed. Really nobody played this card. It was a kind of a joke card between us of like a card you would never play. 7 damage for 4 is not good. That's actually worse than Swinging Web Kick. 1 damage to everything else it's nice. Like, it's a nice kicker on like Squirrel Girl, but that's also because you're paying 2 for it and you get an ally. It's not super impactful. It doesn't do a lot. It was better in the days it came out because minions had a lot less health. There's a lot less health just to go through, so 7 was a lot higher of a percentage of all those villains, and those 7 would kill any big minion, and a lot of those minions have 3 to 4 health, 2 to 4 maybe, so like that 1 damage is a huge chunk of their health, but it kind of gets outpaced the farther you go on. This card doesn't do super well against like the 4 horsemen. It doesn't love seeing the thunderbolts coming. It's just like the game is scaled above 1 damage to every enemy.
Well, let me stop you for a second because I know the next card you're going to bring up, but before we get to there, I want to just dissect this card on its own because I do feel like oftentimes this one and the one we're going to mention, Hone Technique, are just taken as a single entity, which is a whole bunch of more setup and other resources you have to spend. But let's just focus on this for a second. This is, I mean, full body charge is 4 for 8, right? And with a potential kicker. But at its base, it's 4 for 8. The kicker is only, overkill, right? If you're half health. There are not many cards. In fact, hero cards aside, how many cards are doing 7 or more damage, right?
There aren't that many.
If you're taking apart hero cards,
you're
talking about
most aggression events do. I think it's just this and full body charge.
And full body charge. Let's go back to the 4 cost. All right, dive bomb or da bomb will do 10 to the villain.
Yeah,
okay.
But also does damage to everybody for 6.
Stand Together can potentially have unlimited amounts of damage, right? That's
theoretically right, but
Avenger and a Guardian
hard to get with a villain.
100%.
The closest thing I think of is like Into the Fray is 3 for 6.
It's 3 for 6.
Uppercut is 3 for 5.
3 for 5.
So,
Melee is 3 for 3 and 3.
Yep. So a lot of
taking aside Hone Technique, because Hone Technique is just going to add the cost onto all of these cards, which essentially is just going to scale them equally. You can't really do 7 or more damage. This is it. So
this is it for 1 card.
Yeah.
I
and
will
then the
say,
one
though,
to each everything else, not bad.
a lot of hero cards are at least more efficient than this, and you could probably do more than 7 damage with 2-cost cards. Is the reason this is so expensive. Is that's a lot of investment for a good payoff, but it's not a great payoff. If you're playing a 4-player game and your turn is, I'm going to pitch my hand and play Dive Bomb, it's not bad. You're going to hit the villain or kill a big minion, and you're going to ping off all the tough cards and kill a couple of those minions left on 1 health. It's not a bad play. It's a fine card. You have to have the kicker of also being aerial.
Mm-hmm. Another hoop to jump through.
Another hoop to jump through for all this. It hurts a little bit, but it is not the end of the world. It's fine.
Then at which point, so what's the number? Okay, so let's think about this card. Think about the power. It costs 4, it deals 7 and 1 to everything else. Ignoring the 1 to everything else for a second, what's the number that you think it has to get to where you would feel like it's playable? Is it 8 to get with full body charge?
I think it's 9.
4 for 9?
I think it's 9, maybe 10.
Oh, that's getting crazy. That's too much.
4 is a lot.
It is, but remember, okay, I know you don't like to talk about effective resources, but this is essentially 5 effective resources because it includes the card you're playing from your hand. It's your whole hand. But 2-cost cards are effectively 6 effective resources. So in order to get the resource curve, we're talking about power, you're going to have to do more than 7, right? You're going to have to outpace it.
Yeah.
Or Swinging Web Kick outpaces it, but that's a hero card. Gamma Slam can do, potentially 15 or whatever. I don't think it's as bad as people say. It is hard to play because of the amount it costs.
It's hard to go back to now.
Okay, now let's bring in the other card then.
In the postmodern age, since the Nova Pack is released, we have Hone Technique, which of course we talked about before. It comes up almost every time you bring up aggression. It is kind of the aggression card of all aggression cards. It adds the cost of your aggression events to their damage, as long as you spend a mental resource on them. And that Hone Technique also has a double mental requirement.
To play the card.
It requires a lot of a build around. And as long as you spend a mental resource on your event, you add your damage, you add the cost to its damage, which turns Dive Bomb into 4 for 11 and 5 to everything else. That is why people play Dive Bomb.
That's a board wipe.
That's exceptional. That
kills the board.
Basically every minion, and also hits the villain for basically a percentage of their health equal to the player count. Just a huge smack of damage to the villain. Or if you're playing like Thunderbolt, that just one-shots a Thunderbolt and then halves the rest of them. It's very, very strong.
It is almost overpowered, right? It wipes the board.
Almost certainly.
Does all that simultaneously.
There is nothing else in the game that wipes the board like a Hone Technique Dive Bomb. That just resets the field. No matter how far behind you are, you could be playing the mutagen formula. Basically, no matter what there is out there, you're going to clear all but like the Goblin Knight. It's so strong. It's absurd. It's the reason people play it.
Technique, I think, boosts a bunch of cards. And the point of Hone Technique, when it came out, I'm not a designer, I think the point of it was to boost some of these cards that were lagging a little bit because they cost so much. So, when you're designing a card, right, you have cost, you have damage. There's only so many levers you can pull to kind of balance a card, and one of them is cost. So 7 to everything, or 7 to an enemy and 1 to everything is a lot of damage. It has to cost a lot in order to do that much damage, but the more it costs, the less likely you might want to play it. I think if this card costs 3, it's busted.
Oh my God, yeah.
So you have, without Hone Technique, right? So you have to make it cost 4.
Then it's better than Swing Web Kick.
And I said at the time that we did the Hone Technique episode 2 years ago, the game is just divided into 2 eras in the aggression aspect. There's before Hone Technique and there's after Hone Technique. And everything after Hone Technique has to take the cost. You can't just make it more expensive to balance a card now because that
just makes it better. If you have a 5-cost event that does 2 damage to everybody, now it just does 7 damage to everybody.
I think Hone Technique was a mistake. In
Hone Technique, I think in hindsight, was a good theory. I like the idea of a card, because aggression was, and probably still is, the worst aspect in general. It's not super strong. It only has 1 gimmick. They're branching out more. Cards like Into the Fray. Into the Fray, I'll shout it again. One of my favorite aggression cards.
Great card.
So fun. If you can throw Overkill on it, it's even better. But even without that, it's just such a great way to thwart and kill big minions. It obviously stacks even better with Hone Technique because everything does. But I like the idea of a way... It's almost, because this is a physical game, right? In video games, you could just patch all these old cards and update their damage to the current meta or whatever to make it better. You can't do that in this game. So they were like, well, what's a way to scale aggression events. And also, I don't remember, maybe I'm just remembering this for us personally, but there was definitely a time around that time of Marvel Champions where people kind of, like, the curves on cards got way lower. People were playing cheap cards, efficient cards. Like, people were just only playing the best, cheapest, most efficient stuff in general. And Home Technique kind of upsets that, right? Because you want to play those big events, but it does fundamentally change the way the game is designed. It changes the way the game is played. Changes the way that we think about damage in the game. Like, now you used to look at aggression events and be like, wow, 4 for 7, I would have just played Swinging Web Kick. And now you look at Swinging Web Kick and you say, man, I wish I could Home Technique that. I wish I could Home Technique everything. I wish I could put it on every attack event. It would be the best. It's amazing.
You would. You're the damage
I
guy.
would. That's
but this episode is not about Home Technique. I will
but it's
stand
hard
by
not
the
to
fact
talk about, right?
that I think Home Technique was a mistake. I think they were trying to solve a problem and created more that maybe
It created
they
a monster.
think about. And that's definitely one of those cards that I think when we talk about the legacy and current environment, I just think that's a card we're not going to see again. I think Home Technique has been printed, and if you have it, that's cool, but I would be shocked if that card gets a reprint at this point. Yeah. I think it's probably lost
they will
to history.
Scale their damage differently.
Yes.
Scale their damage better to make aggression feel more valuable and just leave Home Technique in the dust. And since they're going to this whole, then the legacy environment will just become absurd with Home Technique. It will just become ridiculous because you'll have cards that are doing 3 for 7 and 1 for everything. You'll have a 3-cost dive bomb, or you'll have a 5 for 12 or something, and it'll just scale so much higher in the legacy.
And I mean, that's fine, but
that's fine.
I think this card can, there's some hoops to jump through. So let's get back to dive bomb. Dive bomb does require you to be aerial. There's technically 3, but there's really only 2 heroes that start the game with a printed aerial, Angel and Spectrum. It's a big deal when Spectrum got it because she was playing this card out of the gate. Ironheart technically has it printed on her 3rd phase, but to start the game,
that's a lot more setup to get there.
2 heroes have printed aerial. Angel can also recur aerial events to his hand. Yes. He gets other benefits for playing. So this card can really get stupid in Angel with Home Technique,
especially
even without Home Technique, because you can play it and then put it back in your hand. Also, Archangel lets you add the damage again as more damage.
You can add more, so it does 4 for 15 and 5 to everything else.
I mean, that's just
and
insane.
Then his resource card is a wild, which means it already hits the kicker on Home Technique and then puts it back in your hand. And his wings also reduce the cost, so you can play it. You can easily play it twice a turn.
Yeah,
I've done it before. It's sick. It's awesome. But I only did it once. I only played that deck for like 1 campaign because it's too much.
It's too much. In a 2-player. In 4-player, I think maybe, this was an early contender for a card that I was going to bring to the con. I was going to bring just massive, huge damage. Even without Home Technique, this card does go really well with Angel because you can reduce the cost, put it back in your hand. You could potentially play it twice in a turn, 14 damage, 2 to everything else.
That's
plus
real.
Wings,
that stacks up really well.
That's damage, and that's without Home Technique. So you free yourself from some of the hoops and also just some of the cheese because you play dive on with Home Technique once and you've wiped the whole board. And then the 5 extra doesn't really matter anymore. It's really just the main damage. Yeah. So
this card basically, I don't know, people might not know the term, but there's a term in card games called turning the corner, where especially in Marvel Champions, that would be the point where you guys are no longer setting up, and you've now pivoted to killing the villain.
Yes.
Because there's a part of the game where you set up and you build, and you are keeping the threat down and keeping yourself alive, and then you turn the corner and you have to kill the villain now. Dive Bomb basically is the corner. It just, as soon as you get there, you drop it, and the corner has been turned. You've cleared the board. There's no minions left. There's almost certainly no minions left. Then you are free to do schemes. Like, it just instantly turns the corner for you.
Yes.
It warps the game in such a way. Even, like you said, with Angel, if you just play it twice, it does most of the effect anyway.
Yeah. It really, with his wings, you're going to get the extra damage, I think, or with his ability. You played this early on in a Rocket, which got crazy because every time you kill something with excess damage, you draw cards, so you can wipe the board and draw a bunch of cards. Yeah. So let's step away from Home Technique and refocus on Dive Bomb because I do think you need to separate them. It's just one card at a time.
There's two different cards here.
So how strong is just Dive Bomb? You said it's really great in Angel. He has ways to make it even better.
He has ways to recur it.
good in Spectrum. She has resources. She has 2 resource generators, and she's always aerial.
Always aerial.
But generally, how good is
aerial
this?
kicker is one of those things that I forgot about a lot. And so I would, when the hone technique first came out, obviously I was trying to play dive bomb and as many heroes as I could. I was trying to get to the combo.
As one does.
And even Rocket, you have to find that one tech upgrade. And he has ways to recur things and like get things back. But it was a little bit of setup to actually get there.
Yes.
And so anyone who has an upgrade to give them aerial that they can't find easily, it becomes a lot more difficult to actually pull it off. So you're basically going through your first deck pass, not being able to play the card. Angel and the Spectrum have that huge upside of if you draw this turn 1, you could just slam it and off to the races. And that is, I think, underrated. That is something that I think makes this card even more powerful. If you skip a hoop on this card, it becomes a lot better.
Yes.
I think overall, Dive Bomb is strong. It's good. It's nowhere near great, but for the cost, it's one of those cards I think gets lost in the like power creep of the game. Like even with hone technique aside, like not even within the design of the game necessarily, which also that, but within the like zeitgeist of the people who play, like people online who are building all these decks and they're building all these things. There are more efficient ways to do damage, and there are plenty of heroes that can do it. So a lot of people get into that mindset of just like, oh, it's 4 for 7. That's too inefficient. I'll just play a swinging web kick and then play a spider drone or whatever. Or like I'll do this. I could do this, do more damage. Yeah, you could. You could always do that. There is a better play. But if you kind of like revert brain to monkey, it's 4 for 7. That's good. Big numbers go big. And one to every enemy actually only gets better the more tough cards you have. Paying a tough card off with 1 damage is so awesome. It's like the best feeling in the entire game of just having the villain and just being able to like, I'm playing Squirrel Girl, break 4 tough cards. That's just like so much value. If you can break 2 tough cards off this, you're golden. You get the villain and break 2 like Frost Giants tough cards and then let your friends take them out.
Also remember,
it is good.
You don't have to hit the villain. So there are times when you hit a really beefy minion and break the villain's tough card. Like if the villain's a tough card, you can just target a beefy minion, smash it,
Red Skull.
And break the tough. Yeah.
Red Skull gets a lot of tough cards. Just hit the sleeper for 7. Boom.
It's that easy, folks.
And also, so his Hydra minions. Red Skull's a perfect example. He's got a bunch of tough minions. He's also got a bunch of weak minions. And he gets a lot of tough cards. Maybe you want to hit Red Skull, break all those tough cards, or you hit the sleeper and break all the other tough cards and kill those 2 Hydra regulars. All right. It is good.
Let's hit how fun this card is before we move on to final thoughts. We are waxing poetically about a big damage card.
I wonder if they can tell I like this card.
I think they can. I think everyone can tell
I feel like this. I feel like people don't know that I like aggression.
So how fun is Dive Bomb? Hit it.
Dive Bomb rules.
Done.
It's, I guess, again, we'll split it into its 2 halves, right?
Yes.
Dive Bomb on its own is fun. It's cool, and it's one of those things where you kind of have to like take a step back from the game and like, it's almost like cynical the way that a lot of, like myself included, I get this as well, like turn into that like, it's not efficient enough, like it's not the perfect card, which we can't play it. If you just like take one step back from this, the game wins when you get the health dial to 0. This puts a significant chunk into that health dial to bring it to 0.
It's that easy, folks.
It is good. When you add in hone technique, you get that gamer thing of big number go bigger, and I can combo, and then hone technique with Dive Bomb is the greatest thing you can ever do in this game. I have to stop myself from doing it because I would do it every time. It's amazing. I played through the whatever campaign Angel came in. I played through that campaign with the double Dive Bomb deck. He also has Worthington Industries, which lets him shuffle Dive Bomb back into his deck every time, so you only find it more. So you're guaranteed to basically pull it every turn, and you play it once or twice a turn. It's absurd. And I did that once, and I've never done it since. I don't even know if I've played Dive Bomb since. I got it out of my system.
It's so good.
It rules, and it's awesome, and there's nothing that can beat that. And so it's almost more interesting at this point for me to not do that anymore. Because yes, I could Dive Bomb with Nick Fury, but that wasn't my first instinct. Because of course I could do it. I could do it every time. And with Nick Fury, it could be even better. It could be 4 for 14 and 8 because he can boost his damage by more. That's ridiculous.
That's crazy.
That's such numbers it doesn't even matter anymore.
Full body charge also exists. So you
full
literally
body charge
can
exists
just play 4 for 8, right?
Just play 4 for 8. Full body charge, I think, like almost replaces Dive Bomb because full body charge is good. It's a good card. But if you're not, it's the walking man's Dive Bomb. If you don't have aerial, you play full body charge instead.
If you don't have a flying car, Play full body charge.
You hoof it, and you just drop kick people really hard.
it.
And that's what it is.
I think one of the things, speaking of dropkick, this card's fun. One of the things that Hone Technique does, right? It does have a resource requirement, which means things like dropkick can't take it, or you choose one kicker or the other, which is fun. But this is not a Hone Technique. It's too easy to get into Hone Technique with talking about Dive Bomb.
You can't not talk about it, but we can stand track.
Dive Bomb on its own is just a fun card. It's a Timmy card. You just slap down big numbers. If you take a standard hand, right, you have 5 cards, you will play all 5 of them to play Dive Bomb. That is your one big action for the turn. That's it. Assuming you don't have resource generators and blah, 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 blah. You slap down 4 of your cards to play your 5th card, 7, 1 to everything, pass turn.
Not a bad turn.
It's not a bad turn.
Not at all.
It's just good. It's, most villains, a standard villain's probably hitting anywhere from 10 to 16 hit points per player, 12 to
Except
16
for
hit points
those
per
bigger,
player.
beefier ones like Thanos and Juggernaut, but like the average villain.
The average is probably
between
12 to 16 per player. This is going to do half of your per player for that stage for the game. It's just really good.
You think about it in like terms of like personal damage, right? If the villain has 14 health, I play 2 dive bombs. I've done my share of damage for the game.
You've done your share.
I've done my percentage that is required for this game to end. Now, me personally, am I going to do more than my share? Absolutely.
100%.
100%. I'm going to do everybody's share. But this is 50% of the damage most villains will need you to do in a game, which is pretty good for one turn.
Here. Let's transition to final thoughts. This is going a little long. I know you're excited. This is a great card.
I know. It's great. It's awesome.
I need to transition us to final thoughts. So I'm going to let you go first. Why don't you give us your final score? Remember, 5 is true neutral. It's right in the middle. 5 is not a failing score. It is just kind of right in the middle. What do you score Dive Bomb? Final thoughts.
Dive Bomb, I think.
No Hone Technique, just Dive Bomb.
Even no Hone Technique, I think I still give it a 9. And that may surprise people because it is not perfectly efficient. And I talked about a little bit how it feels a little bit bad to play some of those, play it sometimes because it's not the most splashy play. But Dive Bomb does a lot of things in card design and in gameplay that I like a lot. It has a big number on it. I like big numbers. It also, not a huge bonus to it, but it's not a hard card. A lot of decks build complicated turns and lots of combos. This is pitch my hand, play a big thing, kill the villain. So it doesn't feel like that's a big deal, but tell me that on day 3 of the con, after 14 hours of gameplay every single day, and then your brain's kind of burning, and you're like, okay, maybe I just want to hit the villain pretty hard. And it is a thing to consider. It also has a physical resource, which, correct me if I'm wrong, they've been leaning more into it recently, but Aggression, I think, was doing the resource kickers before most other aspects were. Like, early on, they wanted all physical kickers, like drop kick, and there's another one I'm forgetting. I think.
Relentless Assault.
I don't know. Relentless Assault. There's a lot of kickers for paying like Relentless Assault is 2 for 5, which is very efficient, but it requires a resource and only attacks minions. So Aggression has always had kind of their secondary trait is always kind of the resource game, and this card does it in both versions of the game, right? Before Hone Technique, it's a physical resource, which means if you don't want to play it, you can spend it for your the card I just said that I forgot, or your drop kicks, or you can spend it on. It also triggers Hulk. It's all these physical things that you wanted, and now it's not a mental resource, which a lot more cards are becoming. So it becomes now a dance between you want physical resources for the kickers on your cards like No Quarter, and you want mental resources for the kickers on your cards like Dive Bomb. So Aggression has a fun mini game that really no other aspect I feel like has of balancing the resources you put into your deck. Mm-hmm. A lot of times when I build an Aggression deck, especially a Hone Technique deck, I don't play Strength and Energy. I only play Genius because I want the mental, and I play Power of Aggression instead because it gets me the kickers. So even just that little choice to have this be a physical resource, which also makes the card cooler looking, like we talked about in the art, it kind of ties back to the original Aggression thing before it was cool. And only the OGs remember Dive Bomb, right? We all did it, and it was like, wow, that was pretty cool. It wasn't as cool as I thought. Like, it feels like it should kill everything, and then Nova comes in and you're like, oh no.
For me, I'm gonna be a little lower than you. I'm gonna give this one a 6.5 out of 10. I think this is a decent card. I think For me, the art and theme is really good. Again, I dock it a little bit in my score just because there's no flavor text, and I do love flavor text on a card. I spend a lot of time looking at these cards and reading them and looking at the art. I feel like a lot of people are just kind of playing the numbers game, but I'm in the theme here. It is a strong card. It is a fun card. I'm not usually a Timmy player, but this is fun. I think there's a couple things at play here. I don't play it that often because I don't play a lot of Timmy stuff, and you do have to hit aerial. I tend to, and this is funny, I just talked about anticipated attack with Colossus all earlier episode, but I tend to shy away more and more from cards that have a hoop I have to jump through, because it sucks to draw this card early. And if you're Rocket or Vision or Nick or whoever can get aerial and you don't have it yet, that means I have a dead card in my hand that I'm just pitching. And yes, they're all resources, but then I'm pitching it, which means I won't see it till my second deck pass, which means at that point it's hit or miss if I will need it or whatever we're going to be at that point. Some games you don't get through your deck, or maybe you just shuffle up and get through some more.
Or you just get bad luck. It's just on the bottom.
Yeah, it can happen. So I don't like cards that have that. I understand why it does.
I'm also leaning that way more and more.
I just tend to pull those out unless I know like Ariel's a big part of the deck and I'm really going to get that upgrade out or whatever. So, and I do feel like there's some aspect of Hone Technique has kind of spoiled this card a little bit, where now I think we didn't play it before Hone Technique very much because 4 was a lot. There were not that many high cost cards. And now we've got
resources were also harder to come by, I feel like.
And the Iliad,
we've got these things that cost going around.
True. It was less resources, fewer resources. Then Hone Technique came along, we're like, well, we'll pay 4 because it's 4 for a million damage
for anything.
And 100 to everything else. And then I just feel like if you're not playing Hone Technique, it's like the card, I don't want to say it feels bad, but it just feels worse because you're a little spoiled by what it could be.
Yeah, it feels bad in like the spoiled kid kind of way. In the same way that I was talking about earlier with like all new events. Like Nick Fury came out and I read his Concentrated Fire card, which is 2 cost for 4 damage and then has a kicker if you kill something. And I immediately said, wow, that's 2 for 4 with Hone Technique, or 2 for 6 with Hone Technique. No, it's not. It's actually not. It's not an aggression event. That's not how that card works.
Yes.
But like, just as like a person who plays this aspect mostly, and just I think as everyone who thinks about this game now, that's like my first thought with any red card that comes out now. And it has to be because it's so good. But then, even like we talked about this entire podcast, this card isn't bad. It's pretty good. It does a lot of damage. It costs a lot, but it's not the end of the world. It has a place in a deck. You wouldn't be stupid for playing it. But every time you play it and you don't have Hone Technique, now that it exists, you're cursed with knowledge, and you know that every time you play it, you could have done 4 more damage to everything.
I mean, it's like we talk about, right? There are only 2 or 3 other cards in the game that do this much or more damage that are available to all heroes. They're aspect cards. So it is in rare air, no pun intended.
Rarer than I thought, honestly.
For how much damage it does and what it costs. So it is a big splashy card, but it's haunted a little bit by the fact that Hone Technique exists, because it's like when I go to Target and I need to get lotion and I go to the store and I look around, there's a million brands of lotion. I could use any of them, but this one's on sale. So I didn't buy it last week because it was on sale. Now it's on sale. I continue to buy it and buy it and buy it. Then I go back to the store. I need to get a new bottle of lotion. And now suddenly it's not on sale anymore. The lotion hasn't changed. It's still the same lotion. I still like it. Makes my hands not dry.
I paid full price for it before.
But now I don't want to pay full price for it because now I've seen it on sale. That's what I have a little bit with Hone Technique. And it's a little unfair to this card to constantly put it in the lens of Hone Technique, but I think that is just what expensive aggression events are now.
That's what every aggression event is. If it costs more than 1, you have to look at it through Hone Technique.
I don't play a lot of Hone Technique. I think Hone Technique was a mistake. I think it's kind of cheese a lot of times. So just me personally, it's a co-op game. Play whatever you want. I don't play a lot of Hone Technique, so I don't play a lot of this card. So for me, 6.5 is where I'm going to land on it. I think it's fine. I think it's better than average. I think I'll play it sometimes. If I play an aerial character, I'll probably throw it in with or without Hone Technique.
It's good in Angel, but even without Hone Technique.
Yeah, it's with Angel. It's crazy, but it's not something I use all the time. So that's kind of where I land on it. I'm not the aggression master like you are, but overall, I think this is really solid. And I'm excited for more expensive cards with or without Hone Technique.
I do like the lean towards expensive cards, and while I think the helicarriers are maybe a little pushed, I like what they were going for. I've actually been
Yes.
saying for a long time that I want a 6 cost of something to just like, and the bomb was there, but like doesn't really deliver on what I want it to be.
Was it though?
But
Yeah.
like I've wanted, and I've dabbled a little bit in designing my own cards, and I designed my own 6 cost card, which was so broken. But it's something fun about spending that much on a card. And when you spend that much on a card as a design, from a design space, you don't want it to feel bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like there's some cards like helicarriers sometimes where it just kind of feels like eating your veggies, where it's like, yes, I'll pay 3 for this, and it will feel better for everyone, and will benefit the table. I'll be able to pass it every turn. Somebody will get this benefit. But sometimes you're just like, well, I'd rather just play Dive Bomb because it's cool. And so you want a big splashy card not to feel like you have to eat your veggies and like you know what you should do it, but you like want to. But also, like I said, Hone Technique changes the game. But I've been, for all you aggression players out there, I've been enjoying playing Hone Technique without the cards that it breaks. Right?
Yes.
Like obviously Hone Technique makes this card ridiculous.
Yes.
Like I said, I don't play that much anymore. With full body charge, yes, 4 for 12 is really good. We're all aware of this. We know that. But like Into the Fray, 3 for 9, but only on a minion. So really, it's kind of a thwart card almost, which is a way you can use Hone Technique to boost your thwart and aggression. Or like Piercing Strike, 2 for 3 with Piercing is a little underwhelming, but 2 for 5 with Piercing is Super Dead Strike. That's a vision card. Pretty good.
Yeah, I mean anything that boosts damage, right,
But
is just good.
a lot of those, I find it to be more fun on those cards that you wish were cooler, like Uppercut turns Uppercut into Swing Web Kick. That's awesome. Like then you can just have anybody play Swing. Like that's so fun. I wish you could do it with Drop Kick, but unfortunately you can't. But I would encourage you to use the card as I think the designers intended it. I think I don't know for sure, but I think when they were building it, they were like, oh, look at all these cards that are kind of mad that you can really boost up. And then they just kind of forgot Dive Bomb, and then they opened that can of worms as soon as it was gone, and there's no way we fix that. But playing those like mediocre aggression events that you can boost up with this, Fusillade becomes really cool. Overwhelming attack, really strong. Like there's just a lot of cool stuff you can do.
Yeah, I think we do need to wrap this up. I think this is not a Hone Technique episode.
It
turning
feels
into
like
a
it
Hone
almost
Technique
is.
episode.
I know. There's just you can't
take it out of the aggression events, especially expensive ones. So I understand that. But I think Hone Technique can stand on its own merits. It's not a card that needs Hone Technique. It still is playable.
Hone
It's
Technique.
very playable.
Dive Bomb stands on its own.
Excuse me. Dive Bomb stands on its own. It is a very playable card. You can put it in decks. It's crazy with Angel. It does have some hoops, but I think overall, on balance, like it's worth it. So that is our final thoughts on Dive Bomb and some Hone Technique thoughts mixed in there. I would love to hear what people think about this card. So if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave a comment. Let me know. Do you play this? Do you play this with or without Hone Technique? Do you enjoy this card? Otherwise, hit me on Discord, Boomguy, or winninghandpodcast@gmail to share your thoughts, because I'm curious how people feel about this card now, especially if you're a newer player who does not have a Hone Technique. But if that's true, you probably also don't have Dive Bomb. So
or a newer player who doesn't have the knowledge of before. But
if you don't have Hone Technique, you probably don't have this card either, because it's a Star-Lord card. But either way,
if you came in new, you bought a whole collection, and you never had that experience of what it was before.
I'd love to hear your thoughts.
What do you think?
Let us know. Other than that, we will be back next episode for another great card. I hope you all join us then, and we'll see you the next episode, 67. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Later.